My name is Bonnie Lass, and I live in Brookline and the JFK crossing section of the town. I've been here since 1976 when I came here to teach at Boston College. When I was growing up, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Wouldn't you know it, my parents wanted to go up in the world and moved to the suburbs. So when I was about 10, we moved to Long Island. Basically, I hated the suburbs and I always wanted to get back to Brooklyn. So off I went after high school, after being a very good student and loving to read and liking advanced placement English, hating geometry, all of that. Never a math student, but always an English student and history. So I went off to college. I went to Syracuse University. But then, life happens. And what happened was the hippie revolution halfway through. And I sort of changed. I got a little bit more interested in what I was studying. And I became an English major and read a lot of English and American fiction. So what to do with that when you graduate? And I took a couple of courses over the summer after I graduated from college. And they placed me in an inner city school. And it was go, go, go. I did it. I loved it. And I was good at it. And after about 7 years, I was headhunted and they says, I've heard about you and we'd like you to come down and run our reading clinic. It's we do after school help for kids who have reading problems and we'd like you to run it. So I did that. And I liked it so much that I said, you know what? I really want to run things and I want to teach teachers how to use my technique in teaching reading. So I guess it's grad school. So my husband and I went out to the Midwest. I got to do research and I got to be a scholar. And that was the most and best schooling I ever got in my life. At the end of that time, though, we wanted to come back to New York. It was fun, but we wanted to get back to the big city, but there were no jobs. So I was lucky enough to get a job at Boston College. And my husband and I agreed that it wouldn't be so bad to live in Boston. So I began to teach teachers at Boston College. At BC, my talents were a little bit wasted. I went to talk to a room full of Boston teachers. You have to do community outreach when you're a professor. So I did some of that. And the Boston teachers didn't like what I was talking about, which was Black English, a different dialect, the needs of different kids who come from different cultures, and they just hated it. And I just said, this is not my cup of tea. There were just so many men there who didn't work hard and they didn't appreciate me because I worked hard and I made a lot of progress, but they didn't like me. And when 7 years of teaching there, I had a few friends, but not a lot. I had made some progress, but they didn't give me tenure. They don't give you a job for life. So a friend of mine who was a teacher also at Boston College said to me, so what are you going to do next? Well, by that time I had a child. My son was 3. I had to look for another job. And that's when I fell into another career. And that was as an editor in educational publishing. A friend found an ad in the paper. I applied for the job. I got it right away. And I started to work for a corporation. So There were corporate politics. I was doing completely different stuff. But as it turned out, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I loved working in publishing. That's what I wanted to do when I was young. I worked after, I think it's 14 years teaching. Now I put in 30 years in educational publishing. And the friends that I made there were the friends I've made for life. I'm still friends with them after retirement. So what I did in educational publishing is I wrote stories for children who were beginning to read. And I did that in two different places, 20 years at Houghton Mifflin and a place called Educators Publishing Service. And I was there for 10 years. A lot of the men did not like the fact that I had a child and I was teaching. They came from very restricted backgrounds, and their wives were home with 7 and 8 kids. I was teaching with one son. He was at the devotion school. I would have to run home and, make sure he was okay. And when he was just a baby, I had to run home and nurse him. And one time I brought him to a staff meeting, and everybody's eyebrows went to the top of their head. They just were shocked. And it just was a very paternalistic and male atmosphere. Publishing was different because it was really run by women. At the very, very top, there were men, but my bosses there were almost all women. I enjoyed being bossed around by women more, although my two favorite bosses in publishing were men because they were funny. So the challenges were between family and responsibilities at work and the politics of the workplace. So my aim was to make a difference, to be helpful, to manifest what I'd learned along the way, and to always be a vital presence in my family and in the world. So